Welcome to the Bell Curve. Today we're diving into the blood-soaked, demon-slaying saga of one of gaming's most iconic figures, the Doomslayer. Beginning as a nameless space marine in 1993's Doom, to his transformation into a near-mythical force of vengeance, this character has carved a unique path through gaming history. In this video we'll explore how a silent, faceless avatar became a legend feared by hell itself, and what his journey tells us about the evolution of the hero in video games. So grab your shotgun, lock and load, and let's rip and tear into the myth of the Doomslayer. When Doom released in 1993, its protagonist was little more than a silhouette, a marine with a gun, nameless, faceless, and for all intents and purposes, voiceless. He wasn't meant to be a character in the conventional sense, but rather a vessel, a way for players to project themselves into the fast, brutal action. Fast forward nearly 3 decades, and that same marine is no longer just a cipher. He's become the Doomslayer, a mythic figure, feared by demons, revered by fans, and one of gaming's most recognisable icons. He's not just a soldier fighting Hellspawn, he's something larger, a force of nature, and a symbol of vengeance. The earliest incarnations of Doom didn't give us much to go on. In fact, the Doomguy, as fans affectionately called him, was intentionally left blank. He had no name, no backstory, no voice, just a furious scowl at the bottom of the screen and a determination to survive. This wasn't laziness on IDSOFTWARE's part, it was deliberate design. Early FPS protagonists were designed to be personalities. They were avatars, a conduit for the player's imagination. You weren't playing as the Doom Marine, you were him. The demons weren't invading his world, they were invading yours. This was in keeping with ID's philosophy of speed and simplicity. John Carmack famously said that the story in a game was like story in a porn film. It's expected to be there, but it's not that important. The focus was never on why the Marine was on Mars, or why hell had broken loose. The only thing that mattered was the fight. And yet, this lack of identity planted the seed for something bigger. By stripping the character down to nothing but violence and survival, ID had created a blank slate that fans could project myth onto. Over time, the Doom Marine began to acquire an identity, not through official lore, but through player culture. Fan communities started calling him Doomguy, an affectionate, almost tongue-in-cheek moniker. His perpetually furious face became iconic in its own right. He was, in a sense, the everyman turned unstoppable. But what made him stand out was his silence. Unlike Duke Nukem, who emerged in the mid-90s with wisecracks and bravado, Doomguy had no catchphrases, no swagger, just pure relentless action. That absence of personality, paradoxically, made him more powerful. Where Duke was a character you observed, Doomguy was a force you embodied. His quiet ferocity made him almost inhuman, something more primal. And this is where the first transformation began. Doomguy wasn't just a soldier, he was an idea, a kind of unstoppable rage made flesh. Even before the games themselves started building mythos around him, the community had already elevated him into something more than human. After Doom 2 in 1994, the series took a winding path. Doom 64 released in 1997 for the Nintendo 64, and it continued the Marines' fight against Hell's forces, adding subtle hints of a larger story that would later tie into his mythic status. But the series' broader momentum seemed to drift. Then came Doom 3 in 2004, which reimagined the franchise with a heavier emphasis on horror and atmosphere. It was effective for the mood, but it didn't deepen the character. It wasn't until 2016, with IDSOFTWARE's reboot simply titled Doom, that the transformation truly began. And it happened in a fascinating way, by leaning into the myth that had built up around the character over decades. From the opening moments, the Doomslayer is presented not as a man but as a legend. The demons speak of him with fear. Ancient tablets record his battles. He's no longer just a marine with a shotgun, he's a slayer, a figure that hell itself dreads. The game even nods to Doom 64's role, subtly weaving its events into the Slayer's eternal crusade, cementing his journey from the 90s to this reborn icon. The clever twist here is that the player knows full well this is the same Doomguy from the 90s. The scowl is back, the relentless aggression is back, but now the game reframes those qualities not as a player projection, but as canon. The Slayer isn't just someone you play as, he's a myth who has existed for eons, reforged and retold across dimensions. In Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, the Slayer is treated with almost religious reverence. Codex entries describe him in tones usually reserved for gods and monsters. He's depicted as unstoppable, eternal, and a being who exists outside normal mortality. What's fascinating here is how IDSOFTWARE took the character's lack of personality and turned it into his defining trait. The Slayer doesn't speak because he doesn't need to. His actions are his voice. He tears, he rips, he moves forward. That's his creed. Even the narrative acknowledges this. The scientists of the UAC are terrified of him. Demons whisper of him in dread, and whenever anyone tries to explain things to him, he simply smashes the computer, breaks the monitor, or walks away. The Slayer rejects exposition in the same way the original games did. This is where the mythic element really crystallizes. In most games, heroes grow by acquiring wisdom, forging bonds, or making sacrifices. The Doomslayer doesn't do that. His myth is built on singularity of purpose. He embodies wrath and vengeance, not nuance. And yet paradoxically this makes him more compelling. In a medium saturated with chatty protagonists, complex moral dilemmas, and cinematic storytelling, the Doomslayer feels refreshing. The Doomslayer is the idea of a hero not as a flawed human, but as an unstoppable force. So what does this mean for the broader concept of a hero in video games? Traditionally, games have tried to follow film and literature in making heroes relatable. We're supposed to understand their motives, sympathise with their flaws, and watch them grow. From Lara Croft's reinvention in 2010 to Kratos' evolution into a father figure, the trend has been towards humanising our heroes. The Doomslayer stands as a counterpoint to this. He doesn't grow, he doesn't doubt, he doesn't need redemption, he exists to kill demons, and that's enough. This doesn't make him shallow, quite the opposite. It elevates him into the realm of archetype, like Achilles in Greek myth, or Beowulf facing the monsters of the dark. The Slayer is less a man than a symbol, a manifestation of rage against hell itself. And this archetypal framing has redefined what it means to be a hero in games. It shows that relatability isn't the only path to resonance. Sometimes power comes from distance, from being larger than life, from being something the player can't fully understand, but can embody. The Doomslayer isn't a mirror, he's a mask, and when players put it on, they become part of something mythic. From faceless marine to community icon, from Doomguy to Slayer, this character has undergone one of the most fascinating evolutions in gaming history. Not by becoming more human, but by becoming less. In an industry often obsessed with cinematic storytelling and grounded protagonists, the Doomslayer reminds us that heroes can also be forces of nature. That silence can be louder than dialogue, and that sometimes the most enduring myths are the ones built not from words, but from action. The Doomslayer isn't just a hero, he's an idea, an eternal reminder that no matter how dark the abyss becomes, there will always be someone, or something, willing to rip and tear until it is done.